Today we're looking at Hebrews chapter 12, and I wonder as we look at this, have you ever feel discouraged as a Christian? Do you ever feel disheartened in trying to follow Jesus? And does that, kind of get you down sometimes and you maybe feel like giving up? Well, Hebrews chapter 12 is an encouragement to us today to not lose heart, because the Christian life is like running an endurance race. Now that's a difficult task, and it takes a long time, and it takes challenges. And so, like running a race, we want to be encouraged in how we're going to finish the race. And so we see in Hebrews chapter 12, he says, "Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us." How do we do that? Well, it's challenging because the race has many obstacles. There's a lot of things that get in the way of succeeding in the Christian life, and he mentions this, some of them in verse 1. He says, "Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us." There's a lot of things that can keep us from moving forward in our faith. One of them is sin, and when we get bogged down in sin, we stop making progress. But there's also distractions and of various kinds. Jesus told a parable about how the cares of this world and the worries of life and the desire for things, those are all things that hinder growth. And you could apply those same things to the race that we're running as Christians. There are things that hinder and entangle us. And when you think about this race, the other thing about it is that the stands are filled with spectators. We're not running alone. We're not just running privately quiet in the middle of the night. But in verse 1, he says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses," and I believe he's talking about all the people who exercised faith in chapter 11, who ran a race themselves, and they've been there, they've finished the race, and they're like cheering us on to keep going in our race in the Christian life. Now, there is a finish line, and that's encouraging. When you're running a race, you want to set your eyes on the end of the race. And in our case, what we fix our eyes on is Jesus. He's the finish line. And not only that, he's also the prize. He's the gold medal that we're seeking for as we run. And the example of Jesus heartens us. That's what gives us encouragement. That's what keeps us from becoming discouraged, is because it says that Jesus himself has run the race before us. He ran his race. He endured the cross. He scorned its shame, and he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. That was his finish line, to be glorified by God in eternity. But his race was to live this life and to especially endure the cross for us. And he said, and so he also knows what it's like for us to have to suffer to endure as a Christ follower today. And so because of that, Jesus is both our example and our prize. He's the finish line. He's the example for us. And so we want to keep our focus on him, keep our thoughts focused on him. That's where our encouragement comes from. So it says, again, fixing our eyes on Jesus, but verse 3 is the final culmination. It says, "Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." That's how we don't grow weary. That's how we don't lose heart, by keeping our thoughts focused on Jesus. So you might want to talk about what discourages you from running the Christian race and what distracts you from staying focused on Jesus in your life.